Becoming a grandparent, the way I see it, in this modern landscape that is so different from what our parents experienced, is a call to action. And it's a call to action not just to show up for your kids and your grandkids, but to actually show up for yourself. Anyone who's a grandparent will tell you it is the greatest joy of their life to spend time with their grandchildren. Turn yourself into that in-demand active grandparent that is always welcome. I mean, you're not saying, hey, what's for lunch? You're saying, what do you want me to go get for lunch? So this active grandparenting, it's showing up physically capable so that you can be trusted for the little everyday moments and included in all the big meaningful ones. It's an active mindset so that you are willing to embrace all these new technologies and these new ways of parenting. One of the most key components is communication. And actually, communication is a key component of any successful relationship. Because I think the only time that a grandparent can truly step in and disagree with parents is if it's a safety issue. I think most women are underhydrated across the board at all ages. As Nike says, just do it. When people are like, oh my gosh, what do you use? Your skin is so beautiful. I'm like, I drink a lot of water. I drink 24 ounces of water in the first hour when I wake up. I think there hasn't been enough of a focus on the possibilities of life's third chapter. You can rewrite the script and make it the ending you want. And it's so much fun when you have this freeing mindset of everything is possible and everything is always working out for me.
Welcome. We're Amanda and Gabriela, mother and daughter and founders of Movement Living. We're on a mission to help women live well and age better.
This is the Movement Living podcast. We interview fascinating people who will inspire you to be confident in your skin as you age and share practical tools to make it happen.
Join the thousands of women who receive our free wellness newsletter at movementliving.com. We curate the best of wellness, bringing you fresh ideas and practical tips every Monday morning. Today, we're back with grandparenting and wellness expert Kristen Coffield. Kristen's no-nonsense approach is so refreshing and necessary.
I love how clear and practical Kristen is. She makes you think differently about grandparenting, not as slowing down, but as staying strong, present, and intentional.
Exactly. Kristen has a gift for making it all feel doable and inspiring. Kristen, welcome back to Movement Living. We are so excited to be having another conversation with you.
Thank you for having me. I always love coming on, and we always have such lively conversations that I know this is going to be a good one.
Amazing. Well, why don't we start with talking a little bit about grandparenting? As the founder of the Active Grandparenting movement, you've talked about how grandparenting is so different now in, the 2020s. Do you want to start there and talk a little bit about why it's so different, how different your approach is? I think that's a great place to start.
I love that. And as the founder of the Culinary Cure, which is my wellness component that I've been working on since I was started to go through menopause, which is why I created the Culinary Cure, because I was like, hey, this is like 15 years ago. I'm like, hey, there's no playbook for this. And so I'm going to create one, because if I'm going through this, S storm, I'm sure other women are too. And then fast forward to I turned 63, I become a grandparent, and all of a sudden I realized that modern grandparents don't have anywhere near the resources that they need to step into this chapter of their lives, ready, willing, and able. And so active grandparenting is really I put a name on it. Active Grandparenting, and I created the idea of showing up as your best self for this job because this is not your mother's grandparenting. This is not, oh, your mom's got all the wisdom, to share about, when you become a mom. And so what's happened is there's this really interesting shift society wide. People are getting married later. They're having kids later. So boomers and Gen X are becoming grandparents later. I hear from thousands of women every single day through my Instagram at Kristen Coffield about women who are like, hey, I'm 75 and I'm becoming a grandmother for the first time. So modern grandparenting looks different because the way modern life is has changed. And now all the information parents need is on their phones. So they don't need the wisdom of their elders to parent. It is truly a re-education of the elders to partner with parents.
Partnering as opposed to being a resource in a different way. I've told Amanda a few times now, I said, oh God, Krista's in my head right now, telling me to shape up, because tell us a little bit more about what those differences are. What is it that you need to do and be for your kids now and your grandkids?
Parents today are so overwhelmed. Many are both working. Childcare has become very difficult to navigate. Finding a safe place, a responsible caregiver, and that's changing rapidly, even as I speak. That whole landscape is changing. And so there are a couple of things. There's a real need for this intergenerational cooperation in the family unit to help raise good humans. There's also a need for those helpers to show up helpful. So if you're not physically capable as a grandparent, parents are going to have concerns about leaving the kids with you. And this is, there's a reason I'm standing here wearing a weight vest. Um, when we became grandparents for the first time, it's easy peasy. You're sitting on a couch, you're holding a baby, you have to change a diaper, put a baby in a crib. You are a couch grandparent when you first become a grandparent. And it's a little bit of an illusion because that only lasts for about a year and a half. And then you have this toddler climbing mobile situation that is going to require you to get up and down off the floor 50 times a day, lower a 25-pound toddler into a crib in a sleep sack, navigate technology in a new way. I have many friends who are like, I don't even know how to use Uber, much less the Nanit with three screens. So you can watch three children sleeping at one time. And don't even get me started on the car seat. The car seat is universally the most hated piece of baby equipment. It's hard for parents to get the kids in the car seat. For grandparents, if you have any kind of arthritis in your fingers and your wrists, and it requires fine motor skills, and I'm actually doing a post today about grip strength because it's so important. And you can just, be Netflixing out and doing your grip strength exercises, but navigating the car seat, which you have to do. I'm sorry, there's really no way around it. No one has created a car seat that swivels so you can
Hey,
put a child.
can I say, no. There's one.
Is there?
There is one. And every time someone helps me put my kids in the car, they're like, what is this car seat that swivels? There's one.
Okay, Amanda, I need this information.
It is, I'm trying to remember the maker, but it's like the Revolve
Okay.
360. It's an all-in-one, lasts for whatever. I think it can convert to a booster eventually. It's like as soon as they're out of the infant bucket seat, they can go into this swiveling and it goes rear facing, it goes front
Wow. All
facing.
right. I'm on it.
So,
I'm gonna find
but
it. I'm gonna get an affiliate with it.
yes, it is like back saver.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it, honestly, without the swivel.
My grandson weighs 30 pounds. He is 18 months and he weighs 30 pounds. So to pick him up, right, from the ground, so you got to pick him up, you've got to get them into the car, then into the car seat. It's a very unnatural movement. So for grandparents who are not in great shape, and I thought I was in great shape. To be clear, I was like maybe overly confident that, hey, Bill and I are like in better shape than most people we know. We've got this. And they were wiping us up off the floor at the end of the day. We would finish a day, and we often are with the grandkids, just the two of us, for, days at a time. And we literally, after we get them bathed and in bed, we literally eat in silence and go to bed. There's nothing left. So, this fitness component, which is why I call it active grandparenting. So, becoming a grandparent, the way I see it, in this modern landscape that is so different from what our parents experienced, is a call to action. And it's a call to action not just to show up for your kids and your grandkids, but to actually show up for yourself by using this call to action to get your habits in order, to prioritize hydration. Because if you're not well hydrated, your muscles aren't pliable, which makes all of the movements you do with grandchildren harder. If you're not properly hydrated and mineralized, it's not just about the water, it's about the water having the minerals, the salts, and the elements so that that water gets absorbed into your cells and then goes where your body needs it. So your joints are filled with something called synovial fluid. And if you're dehydrated, you don't have a lot of synovial fluid. So your joints, now your muscles are dehydrated, movement's harder, you're going to feel more sore after. Your joints aren't moving as well. You may even be experiencing inflammation if you're dehydrated, because it certainly makes any inflammatory situation worse. And then your spinal fluid. So your spine is your gut brain axis. And your gut brain axis is everything because we know the gut calls the shots. So, from mood, for sleep, for hormone balancing, and just because, we're post menopause doesn't mean we're still not experiencing hormonal stuff and blood sugar stuff. So, getting functionally fit so that you can show up helpful and don't need help yourself, and prioritizing your own health and wellness in a way that extends your life, well, extends your health span, which extends your lifespan. And I know you've had my friend on talking about joy span. Well, your joy span really is this grandparenting. I mean, anyone who's a grandparent will tell you it is the greatest joy of their life to spend time with their grandchildren.
That's a really great way to get into being showing up for yourself and being there. And it's not just grandchildren. I mean, I find it in every aspect, but it's a very, very good initiating factor, isn't it? I mean, what tell us a little bit more about how your own kids have received this new approach to grandparenting that comes from you.
Well, my daughter asks me every day, Mom, when are you moving here? Like, how can we get more of this in our lives? Because my husband and I made this little pact. We were like, okay, This is a completely new job. We're going to have a completely new mindset about this. And one of the things we have to do now that we're becoming grandparents, is really have this conversation with our daughter and her husband about what their expectations are from us and what our expectations are about how we see our role as grandparents. And this is a key factor. It's in my program, Active Grandparenting 101. I've got a whole chapter on, well, a whole section that's got all sorts of parts to it about how to bring high value helpful activities. What are those? And how to like turn yourself into that in demand active grandparent that is always welcome. I mean, you're not saying, hey, what's for lunch? You're saying, what do you want me to go get for lunch? So it's a real flip of, I think a lot of people had the mindset they're going to be a grandparent, they're going to come, they're going to take a vacation at their kid's house and visit with the grandkids. And that would not be as helpful as it is when my husband and I show up. We're kind of like self-sufficient. My husband's making coffee for everybody in the morning. I'm, helping with household tasks that I remember dreading as as a new mom with little kids. The laundry never ends. It never ends. But it's nothing for me to throw in and fold a couple of loads of laundry because I don't have anything else going on. And I don't like to be idle. So this active grandparenting, it's showing up physically capable so that you can be trusted for the little everyday moments and included in all the big meaningful ones. It's an active mindset so that you are willing to embrace all these new technologies and these new ways of parenting.
That's so helpful. I mean, I just had this insight because in my own experience with Amanda, and her kids and family, and they've recently moved to another house. So what happens with me sometimes, I want to be helpful, but I need a little bit of job training. And in this particular job description of this new active grandparent, you need to know how the house functions. If you show up and you're like, well, how do you do laundry? And it's in the moment, and your kids say, don't bother because it's not going to be helpful. How do you get that training? I mean, is that what you talked about with your own kids? Just, help us understand your household, and then we can be more helpful.
As a culinary wellness coach for decades, when they moved into their new house, I said, "Hey, how would you like me to organize your kitchen? Would you like me to organize your cabinets and get organizers and, put everything where, as a chef myself, put everything where it makes sense." So in this instance, they were open to that as that sounded great to them. And they like that, and they've been able to maintain that. And my son-in-law, bless his heart, he didn't come from a home where there was any kind of organization like I am used to. So for him, when I was like, this is how my mind works, I put like things with like things. And that way, when you're looking like, here are your herbs and spices, but here are your exotic. He's a big cook. He loves to cook, but I'm going to put all your exotics over here so that we can get to the stuff we use every day. So my advice to new grandparents is you really want to just lay it all out there. First of all, you got to have a thick skin because you are going to get yelled at. Just put your seatbelt on because you are going to get yelled at, and it's not your fault. You're going to do something the way you did it or your mom did it, and it's not going you're going to say something, that whole, "Oh, good job, Vivian." Jesse's like, "We don't say that." We say, "Vivian, why did you do it that way? That's so interesting. What were you thinking?" Like it's a whole different way of even having conversation. So you're going to get yelled at, you're going to do something wrong. It's not about you. It's a learning curve. So just put yourself out there and say, "Look, I would love to help do the laundry while I'm here. I love to do laundry. I live to do laundry. So can you just show me how you like your laundry done?" My daughter likes certain things hung up. So I just said, just tell me how to do it. And then she didn't have to be like, ugh, oh my God, you just shrunk all my, stuff kind of thing. So it really works. I think this active grandparenting, one of the most key components is communication. And actually, communication is a key component of any successful relationship. But because we were parents and we are so used to parenting our children, we have to take a step back and understand that we are now, the job description is different. We are kind of like not in charge. So we need to communicate in a way so we know how to navigate this, what can be a very tricky relationship. And not all a lot of families have a lot of hit or miss with this, but the less you take offense at being corrected, the more willing you are to learn new things and use conversational techniques around things you don't understand that maybe you're like, well, why can't we, go to the bakery every afternoon while I'm here, Like these are conversations and nobody should be afraid of them because once we talk about it, everybody feels better.
It is a minefield. You do have to have thick skin, but the rewards are so great too, in every part of your life, because what you're doing is you're helping yourself age better, And so I appreciate this so much.
I have a question about when when you really disagree. Were you going to ask
Yeah,
that?
I was going to ask exactly that, which is how do you deal with the fact that your kids are so different from you? They're not you. And the first thing about having children is as they grow up, you realize, oh, that's not me. That's a separate human being, and their ideas and values are slightly different, not entirely different, but how do you, accept that and grow with them and their views?
And also just like a follow-up question, I think, is like when you really disagree with something, are there ever times where you actually would communicate that? And if you have any tactics for doing that in a
I'm
way
going to
that,
start with that one because I think the only time that a grandparent can truly step in and disagree with parents is if it's a safety issue.
right.
And in that case, it's always best to kind of tiptoe around it because you don't, if someone takes offense, they're not going to hear what you have to say. And so it is tricky, and family dynamics are all different. A lot of families don't have great communication to begin with, which makes difficult conversations even more difficult. But I think that the best way is always to ask a question about the thing. Why do you do it that way? Or could you explain to me why this might be the best way to do this? I'm just wondering, would you be open to hearing some thoughts I have? So instead of coming right out and being like, oh my God, what the are you doing? That's dangerous, but sort of tiptoeing around it because you want to get the parents' buy-in to listening to what you have to say. And if they don't want to listen, if they don't want to listen to what you have to say, this is a Mel Robbins situation where you just kind of have to let them. So unless it's a child is in danger situation, I think the parents get the final say, and the parents are the gatekeepers to the grandkids. So if you want more access to your grandkids, you need to find ways to work with the parents. And the hope is always if there's something that a grandparent's wisdom would really be helpful to help this child, that it may not be in that conversation, but that you can get to a place in your communication where you can make a difference. But it's usually not just a one and done situation. It's really about getting this trust and this communication and then being able to express if you have real concerns. And if it's just something like, you don't understand about modern parenting, that's where you ask the question, why do you do it this way? I am so curious because we did it so much differently. Help me understand so that I can do things the way you would like them done.
All such great advice. I can't tell you. And it's so exciting to be able to delve a little deeper into this whole world because, as I said, it helps you in your other parts of your life as well.
I have to say, one of the most rewarding parts of this grandparenting, one of the most interesting things for me that somebody asked me the other day, Kristen, can you name one thing? So, active grandparenting is putting a name to this modern way of grandparenting where we as parents are showing up for our kids in ways that our own parents couldn't or didn't. And we want to be more dynamically involved with our kids and their families. And so for me, I said, well, there's really two things about that I have found the most enjoyable. One is my relationship with my daughter has we have become so much closer. We talk every day. She now asks me a lot of questions about things that maybe at first she didn't because now she's in the thick of it. She's got two kids. She's pregnant with her third. She's like, what do you think about this? So there's a lot more what do you think and a lot less brand new parent tension. And it's just made our relationship so much more lovely and there's so much more depth to it. But what has really been fun to watch is my husband as a grandparent because so many men were unable to really be very present as parents. They were working. When you have your kids, you're kind of in the thick of it with those are big earning years. And if the husband is the breadwinner, he's working. If both parents are working, even then the mom is still, as we know, statistically, women might work a full-time job, but then still be the primary caregiver for the kids. So to see my husband, Chief, um, in this role that he is loving so much. There's nothing he won't do. He is so ambitious. Let's take him to the children's museum. Let's take him to the zoo. We're going to get those kids to church on Sunday. He's in it and he loves it and he loves doing it all. And that is the biggest joy for me.
That is so cool. And that's actually a great segue because my other question was, how did you get your husband on board with, you've talked about you guys, sounds like you do it sort of together and the grandkids come and you're a team. Like, I feel like, is that rare? Is that, what did that look like for you guys?
They don't come to us very often. They come to us in Maine. We have a house in Maine, but we go to them. There's so much equipment.
Yeah, it's true.
There's so much equipment. Plus, we have a 110-pound grand dog named Thor. So it's very difficult for me to do the kids and the dog. So we go together, and my husband still works. We both still work a lot. But my husband's an attorney. He can pretty much do what he does from anywhere. Funny story, last January, we went to help. It was my son-in-law's birthday. They were going to go away for a long weekend. And my husband and I showed up to help. And within the first 24 hours, I didn't feel great. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm, throwing up in the trash can and sitting on the toilet. And I've got, what is that thing everybody gets?
Norovirus?
Norovirus. So
Oh,
I've got norovirus. So
no. The worst.
That's Thursday. Friday, the nanny calls in sick because she's got norovirus. So I hydrate like heck because that is what, in my mind, solves every single problem. And of course, the dehydration from something like norovirus will make you feel worse and make it last longer than the sickness itself. So I hydrate like heck because our kids are gone. The nanny can't show up. Bill is supposed to be in court, like literally. He goes to court, he puts on a shirt and a tie and a jacket, and he sits in their wine cellar because there's decent Wi-Fi, but it's kind of the only place where he can shut a door. And then he gets norovirus. So I have no choice but to pull myself together. But apparently he's in the basement in the wine cellar with a trash can next to him, and he's in court and he's literally, doing this. So this is modern grandparenting at its best. You do what you have to do. So we did talk about how we wanted to be grandparents, what kind of relationship we wanted to develop with our grandkids, and what we as a couple thought that would look like. So I have certainly done time alone with the grandkids, but we mostly try to do it as a couple, and it has been great for our relationship.
Good insights, Kristen. It really at the bottom of it all is that communication. That what do you want out of it? What do I want? What do you need? How do I give you that? And that advice alone is a huge help, I think to anyone.
Well, and for a lot of men, they now have the time to focus on their wellness too. And so when it's reframed as this is going to help you be a better grandparent, this is going to give you more years to spend doing what you love with the people you love. I want to take my granddaughter to Paris when she's like 13. Well, I'm 66, right? So she's 3.5. So in 10 years, I'll be 76. So that's a big goal for me for 66 and 76 to look a lot the same, right? And so for men who've maybe, only been playing golf and they haven't been, working on cardio, maybe they've got a little weight to lose. When you start spending time with grandchildren, it's a good marker of what kind of shape you're in.
I mean, just imagine, picking up a 30-pound
Bag of
dumbbell
mulch.
and trying to just like carry it around with you all day. And you'll quickly realize that it's so active. And it's like you said with the car seat, it's always an unnatural maneuver. You're holding it and you're trying to do other things, or you're lifting in a way that it just requires so much strength. Like, it's really remarkable how much strength it requires. Even as a parent with those same ages, like I have to train for it. I have to go get my weights out and think, oh my goodness, this is 25 pounds. Like, my kids are heavier than this. And it's like, it's really, yeah, it's such a motivator.
I call him, this little grandson, same thing, he's just a sack. And I call him my cuddle bell instead of kettlebell because he is such a cuddly little thing. And so again, you're so motivated, but you better use your abs and your core and your glutes when you pick them up, or you're going to be injured. But I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. It's so rewarding. I think that's really the message here.
Well, hydration has come up a few times already, and I know Gab recently, I think, had an epiphany about hydration.
I know that you're all about this. It's a big part of your active grandparenting. And yes, and I read about it and I try to do it. And then I'm asking, well, why? And I'm still feeling dehydrated all the time now. That it got my attention. I'll put it that way. And this is what happens. You need to be strong. It gets your attention. You want to get stronger. But with the hydration thing, first of all, nobody loves just drinking water all the time. So it's always, drink 8 glasses of water. And you're like, yeah, I know. But why? Why? And so, for a lot of reasons, I've delved more into it. And at the same time that you're advocating more and more about it and wanting to rebrand, and we'll get to that, the rebrand what you're saying to people, saying it in a different way, because that's the only time people actually get a message is when they hear it. So my message that I'm hearing is this is serious. You have less water in your body when you get older. You don't have the same thirst, what is it called? Instinct. You don't feel as thirsty. Your kidneys aren't as productive, possibly. Your joints need lubrication, the synovial fluid. So all of these things, and I'm finally getting it. It's sort of, wow, this is now becoming a priority, has become a priority. How are you going to deal with it? And I'd love to hear you talk a little more about it because I know we've spoken about it, but now it's even bigger.
And I feel sometimes like people's eyes glaze over when I'm like, how's your hydration? And they're like, I drink plenty of water. And I'm like, ugh. Drinking water and hydrating are two different things. It's just like taking a yoga class and practicing yoga, different things. It's like having a salad for lunch, but eating a largely plant-based salad, two different things. A largely plant-based diet, two different things. We've got to readjust our mindset to understand the purpose of hydration. Hey, so here's the deal. You can live for 3 days without water. You can go for like 30 days, 32 days without food. Water is an essential nutrient. So when we start to think of water as the most important supplement in our supplement stack, and we look at the quality of that water, because it makes a huge difference. So when water becomes a supplement and you think of it that way, if I told you I had this supplement, it is going to, first of all, your skin's going to look amazing. You're going to have better sleep. You're going to move more easily. Your cravings will go away. You'll have more energy. You'll be able to build muscle better. It will help you strengthen your bones, but it's $100 an ounce, kind of thing. People will be like lined up for it. But when you say it's water, people are like, what? That can't be, I've heard enough of this. Well, the quality of the water that you drink is what makes the biggest difference. So the water that comes out of your tap that you should be filtering, to be clear. By the time you're done with that, it doesn't have any of the minerals, or very few, none of the trace minerals, none of the elements, and none of the salts that would be in naturally occurring water. So the best example I can give is my son-in-law put in these very fancy water filtration systems on their sinks for the drinking water. And when I was there, my daughter opened the door to let the dog out, and he was in the yard and he was eating dirt. And my daughter said, I don't know what's happening. Every time I open the door, Thor goes out and eats dirt. And I said, he's eating the dirt to get the minerals that are no longer coming out of the tap. So she was like, oh my gosh. So I told my son-in-law this, and he immediately got a different water filtration system that remineralizes the water. But here's the big message about hydration. We are missing minerals all across our diet. Our fruits and vegetables have less minerals because of modern farming practices. Minerals come from the soil. So when we do these huge agri businesses who are monocropping, who are fertilizing with petroleum fertilizers, the food may look great, but it isn't nutrient dense. So we're missing all these nutrients from our food. And then you go to the water you're drinking, and it doesn't have the salts and the minerals to help the water get into your cells, because that's the goal. When people say, oh, I'll be running to the bathroom all the time. Yeah, you will if you don't boost your water and remineralize it so it can be used by your body. So it's really this 1-2 step of taking your water and then remineralizing it so that it can be used for all the metabolic functions.
I just love that. And so let's talk about the ways that you can do it aside from having a new filtration system. What
Yeah.
are other ways?
And it's not expensive. And that's the thing. It's not complicated, it's not expensive. But in order to become properly hydrated, it takes about 14 days of drinking boosted water consistently and constantly, just like throughout the day. So when I say to people, Do you think you could take 8 to 10 sips of water an hour? People are like, "Ugh, yeah." Well, that's all it comes down to. About 10 big sips an hour for 10 hours a day will get you there. It doesn't have to be water, it could be herbal tea. You could make spa water in your fridge. But what it does have to have in it, you could use a pinch of mined sea salt. So these are ancient salts formed before pollution that are mined. They're not taken out of the sea today because all the salts that are formed today have microplastics. So we want these ancient salts that are in these big mines in the earth. And there, I think there's Celtic salt that's mined, there's Himalayan salt that's mined. So you could put a pinch of that in your water. You can buy fulvic and humic minerals, which is what I do because I am taking no chances. I am covering the bases every way I know how. And you don't have to put it in every drink, but you do need to put it in several drinks a day. And when we do this simple second step, it makes all the difference.
You have a 14-day rehydrating program, and that's really what you talk about.
It's funny because I used to give this program away for free. And then I realized when you give people something for nothing, they don't think it's very valuable. So I rebooted the program. I recorded videos for every day. So I'm actually showing up coaching people every single day for 14 days. And I made the program $20 because I was like, I don't want anybody to have an excuse for not doing this, but I want people to take it seriously enough that they actually open the emails that they get every day and think about it. And, then you own it and you can go back to it. But what I do now is I give people a hydration quiz, a free hydration quiz. They can get that at theculinarycure.com and you can just see where you are in your hydration journey. But I think most women are underhydrated across the board at all ages.
It's just we don't notice it until all of a sudden we do notice it. And I've been noticing in my 70s, and I do have a pretty active lifestyle. So that's part of the reason, probably. But I'm going to take it even more seriously. It's been very helpful. I know that you can also get trace mineral drops. I've also got packets of rehydrating powder that I love when I'm really feeling depleted. So many, many ways to do that. And we'll give out that information too.
I would just say one thing. When you are buying rehydrating packets, read the label, and if it says sodium chloride, you do not want to use it. So a lot of the most highly marketed ones have flavor, they have color, they have they're processed, they have artificial ingredients. So you really want to go to the most simple form you can find that where you're not paying for the packaging, you're really paying for the product. But, if this touches on a lot of points for women, a lot of the vanity points, hey, let's be clear. We want to look good too. We want to feel good. We want to look good. When we feel good, we like the way we look better. We want to stay active. And there's no physical reason why you can't move like you're 50, well into your 80s, except people don't do the work. They don't put these practices into place. I mean, it's biohacking, right? So, creating a hydration practice for all your listeners, this is a form of biohacking. Biohacking is where you create habits that work with your biology to help your body function at its best and maybe help you live younger, longer, and better. And hydration is the most basic of the biohacking habits. It is the one everybody can do. It is the one that has the potential to make every other wellness goal you have easier and more attainable more quickly.
You're so clear, Kristen. You're clear, you're no BS. It's just, this is the way it is. Go do it.
Like, just do it. As Nike says, just do it. When people are like, oh my gosh, what do you use? Your skin is so beautiful. I'm like, I drink a lot of water. I drink 24 ounces of water in the first hour when I wake up. So when I read that Tom Brady did this, I was like, well, that makes a lot of sense. So I get up, I have my 12 ounces of my morning lemon water with my fulvic and humic minerals, with my creatine, because we should all be adding creatine now, and my lemon, juice of half a lemon, and I drink that. And then I swish my mouth with a little water and swallow that down because you don't want to brush your teeth after you've had your lemon water. And I go and do my workout. And when I come home, I have another 12 ounces. So that really in that first hour is a great way to get ahead on your hydration. So now I've had 24 ounces of water before I'm going to have my caffeinated beverage of choice.
Gab, do you have coffee first thing? Or do you drink water? Like, is that
No coffee. No coffee first thing. No.
Always drink water when I get up because I'm always thirsty when I get up, right? But not to that extent. And I think even my grandmother who lived to 96, my Australian grandmother always had lemon water every morning. That was her habit. And I think I'm going to make that a more serious habit. I think it's
Well,
good.
let me frame it for you. So when we're asleep, we're in fasting mode. We have to be because all of our major organs, including our brain, undergo a metabolic detox. And all of that metabolic waste, so think of it like oil. You change the oil in your car because you use the oil and it gets gunked up, and then you need to put fresh oil in. So all this metabolic waste is the dirty oil. It is in your lymphatic system. And so the first thing you want to do when you wake up, yes, you're thirsty. That is your body signaling you, let's take out the trash. Let's rehydrate after the fast that occurred during sleep. Let's help that lymphatic system, which needs your help. So you either through movement or through hydration, we help the lymphatic system detoxify and get rid of that metabolic waste. So hydrating first thing in the morning is very functional for our bodies and our brains.
Love your metaphors, taking out the garbage. And by the way, this is water.
So is this, and I know it looks like vodka, but this is this is this really is a supplement. The Holstein water is like the
Mm.
bougiest water you can buy.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm glad it's not vodka, but I wouldn't blame you if it were.
I like your this sort of description of biohacking because I think that's not really um it's not something that our community would necessarily identify with. It's kind of like, oh yeah, biohacking, that's for men in their 30s or whatever. I think that's who comes to mind when I think about biohacking.
So biohacking is working with your body's biology by creating habits that trigger different metabolic responses in your body that help you live younger, longer, and better. But it is also our way of engineering how we want to age, how we want to look as we age, how we want to move as we age, how we want to avoid disease as we age, and how we want to stay independent for as long as we can.
On the other end of the spectrum of aging well, I think, connection friendships, relationships are so important. And the science is showing more and more that, hey, that's actually as important as, your food and your exercise. And if you, yeah, if you have those strong connections, it really makes such a big difference. So it's so interesting to hear, obviously, with you and your daughter and your grandkids and your husband, like you have so much going on the connection front as well, and friendships. You've talked a little bit about friendships. How has that shifted for you in your 60s?
That is such a great question because there is a huge shift that happens. And I think you're referring to one of my posts about the thing about 60. And I talk in this series of posts about the kinds of changes we experience that we didn't really see coming. Nobody talked about it. Nobody told you these things were going to happen. And friendships are a big part of that because for so many years, the people you hang out with are dictated by your children's schools, your children's sports, and this goes right through college for them. And we had a daughter who played Division I college sports, so we were with her for 4 years going to those sorts of things. And that starts to change as you get into your 50s and 60s, and people move away to be near their kids, and people's husbands retire. And then sometimes there's a big financial divide between friends, and some friends are, off doing very, elaborate vacations and travel and home remodeling. And, other people are, doing different things. They're focusing on, like maybe like me, they're focusing on creating a whole second career. Or, Gabriella, you and I are both cut from the same bolt of cloth. We are women who like to be busy and are curious. So what you're talking about are like these components of the blue zones. So what helps people live longer? So the blue zones, for anyone who doesn't know, are the places in the world where people have lived longer than anywhere else. And all the blue zones have 7 things in common. And people eat a largely plant-based diet, and they don't drink a lot of alcohol, and they live close to the earth, and they're part of their community, and they have a strong family and a strong spiritual connection, and they all eat beans in every blue zone. We should all be eating more beans, and part of that is the fiber, and part of it is you can combine beans and rice and beans and other things and get a complete plant protein. And that's another thing. As women, we need to make sure we got enough protein and that we're hydrating and continuing to build muscle as we age up into this third chapter. But our friendships start to become, at least for me, and I think Gabriella would agree, your family becomes more important in a lot of ways. If you're close, maybe not for everyone, but for many people, the choice to be closer to their kids and grandkids changes what their friendships look like. Um, and quite honestly, your friendships are going to change whether you move near your kids or not, because people are going to move near their kids. People are going to die. People are going to retire to the golf course. People's interests change. So all the things that held us together reconfigure when we're in our 50s and 60s. And many people feel sad, a deep sadness, mourning that that time of your life is over. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to focus on the things you left undone, the interests you still have that you maybe you want to learn Italian. Now's a great time to learn Italian. Maybe you have always wanted to take up photography, or you've wanted to cook more, or you wanted to get into better shape. I think there hasn't been enough of a focus on the possibilities of life's third chapter as being almost like, hey, it's like going to college again. You get to choose what you want to take, and you get to choose the people you want to be with. That's not dictated anymore by your community. You can rewrite the script and make it the ending you want. And it's so much fun when you have this freeing mindset of everything is possible and everything is always working out for me.
I couldn't say it better. I mean, that little bit about rewriting the script. I mean, we know that there are issues. And we don't want to ignore that, our knee hurts, or that we had cancer, or any of these big things that happen as you get older. But if you stay on the sunny side of life, as they say. Try to be positive. It does help with dealing with those issues too. I mean, I don't want to underestimate the scope of those things, but the plus side of getting older to me is exactly what you're saying. You get a chance to start being yourself more, and it brings happiness and joy. And speaking of joy, which is Joy Span, let's talk just a little more about that connection and what it does for you.
First of all, you have to know my grandmother's name was Jessie Joy. My mother's name was Joy Ann. I am Kristen Joy. My daughter is Jessie Joy, and my granddaughter is Vivian Joy. So we have a lot of generational joy. But your joy span,
That's cool.
you know what's really cool is that as a grandparent, a lot of today's modern parenting psychology is about building confident, happy kids. And the things that we're teaching our grandkids. So, for example, at the end of the day, after my granddaughter and I read a story, and it's never just one because she loves story time, and I always bring a new book, and she said, "Oh, KK, we will never run out of books."
I love that.
So we read our stories and then we turn the light out, and she likes to have a minute where we talk about our day. And she says, "KK, tell me about your day." And this is an opportunity to do a little of this, this building positive thoughts. So I always love to talk about how everything's always working out for me. And sometimes I have a challenge, like this thing happened and I had to figure it out, but I'm really smart, so I can always come up with a solution. So it's an opportunity to kind of plant these seeds in their little minds about, yeah, everything's always working out for me. I don't need to worry about that, because it's all going to be okay. Well, we can do that for ourselves too. And so, this kind of setting our mind in a positive mindset is really important for aging, the same way it's important for our grandchildren. So I always talk about the 15-minute powerful morning routine. And what you do in the first 15 minutes of each day sets the tone for that day. So you know when you woke up and your alarm went off late or you turned it off and then you got up late and you've got into the shower and the shampoo fell and it hit your foot and you banged your head and then you spilled coffee on your blouse and you had to change and you got in the car and it seemed like you hit every red light. Well, you almost made that happen because when you woke up, you were in your subconscious, unconscious mind, and your anxiety and your inner critic took charge. But when you wake up and you take a second and you flip the switch and you think about things that make you happy and put a smile on your face, like your chonky grandchild, little grandson, or a pet, or a friend, or something you're looking forward to, or maybe it's even just a podcast you want to listen to, whatever it is. You first feed your mind with positivity. Then you go in, you get yourself your lemon water, and you think of this as almost like your lemon water morning tonic. And this good thing you're doing for yourself. So now you've taken control of your body. It's like been 5 minutes since you woke up. So you've taken control of your mind, you've taken control of your body, and now just because you've got a minute while you're still finishing your 12 ounces of lemon water, you're going to do a little alternate nostril breathing. And you're going to inhale in for 4, exhale for 6, inhale for 4, exhale for 6. And you're going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your calm system. That's your feel good system. And now you're going to go to the coffee shop and the person in front of you is going to turn around and you're going to share a funny story and you get your coffee and they go, "Oh, that person just bought your coffee for you." You're going to hit every green light and something good's going to happen or someone's going to call you. The power of positivity changes everything. And we can control that. But it's like hydration. We don't really think it's going to make a difference. So oh, it's a little woo. So instead of like what I would say, anybody listening, try hydrating properly for a week and try the 15-minute powerful morning routine for a week. And if you do those things and nothing changes, give me a call and I'll give you a private coaching session.
That is a wonderful offer. Thank you for that. And you make it sound accessible and desirable and even easy, which I know it's not, but like everything else, like the message of hydration, the message of strong muscles, strong bones, all of that, has to hit on us at the right time when we're ready to receive it, which is really why it's so wonderful to talk to you again, because a lot of what we touched upon in the first podcast, you've delved into more and you've learned more about it and you've found a new way to say it. So I think it's very, very valuable. And I thank you for your time on this.
It's been so, so lovely. Yeah, I feel like we could talk all day. Is there anything else that you really want to get across? Any key other messages that you're really focused on right now?
Well, for anyone who is an active grandparent in training or just an active ager or already an active grandparent, today's habits turn into tomorrow's health and wellness, which is why it's never too late to start, but you have to really understand the power of the cumulative benefits of putting habits in place that support you so you can age better, so you can engineer your aging. And that's really this whole conversation has been about biohacking and about engineering our aging so that we can show up as these active grandparents and become dynamic contributors to family life. And so we can age on our own terms. And it's not to say we won't need help someday. And having taken care of, and I'm still taking care of my 91 and 93-year-old in-laws, there will come a time when I need help, and I hope I remember to accept that help and really, just like I've had to have an open mind about being an actively involved grandparent and accepting this modern way of parenting, I hope I will have an open mind about my own aging and accepting help that can help me live better if I need it.
I'm glad you brought that up because that is a really important part of this process. So thanks for reminding us to stay open to that ourselves when we need it.
Curiosity, open-mindedness, communication, biohacking,
Habits.
habits.
Habits is the big one. It's like 34% of everything we do is habitual. We don't think, we just do. And so when we can get that 34%, now you think about what's in there that you're just doing and you're not thinking too much about that's your drinking and your eating and your sleeping and the thoughts in your mind and the people you hang out with. So when you biohack, when you twist those habits around to make them serve you better, you're already doing these things. So we're just going to habit stack them so they do more for us. Because as we get older, our body and brain don't quite do what they used to. But if we can support them with these habits, they can, and we can biohack them, we can live younger on a molecular level. And exercise is a big one.
I feel really pumped up and inspired now. I really do. And it's so helpful.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And just again, the best place to find you is Instagram, right? At Kristen Coffield.
Instagram, and then activegrandparenting.com and theculinarycure.com. So for anyone who wants to take the free hydration quiz, go to theculinarycure.com. And I encourage everybody who just listened to this to go get a nice big glass of water, put a pinch of Himalayan sea salt in it, and make a commitment to yourself that you're going to at least hydrate better.
Thank you so much, Kristen. We so appreciate your time. It was a delight to talk to you again. And I also feel pumped up. I'm going to focus on hydration and my morning routine. And I know it's going to make a difference.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.